Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. How's it going, Joe?
Great, man. It always feels like such a long time between talking now because it kind of is from what we've been doing for years.
It feels like a long time because it is a long time. Yeah, it's it's definitely a change of pace for the podcast episodes. Not hitting as much research, shorter episode lengths. But again, always looking for feedback from any of you who've been listening for a long time. Just let us know. Let us know what you think in the community. Shoot us an email. Let us know on Instagram. Shoot us a message. Whatever you got. We always appreciate the feedback. But so far, so good. I do like being able to tackle topics like real quick and like very like straight to the point. That's been good for me just to like get some ideas out of my head and recorded. But I also do enjoy talking to you and hashing things out. How's your training been, man? How are things going?
So my body actually feels better now than it has, I think, all year. I finally like the healing process has been super slow, but I mentioned a few months ago, but my heel is pretty much better after the PRP injection. Shoulder and wrist took a bit longer, but everything feels fantastic. I can basically do everything, 90, 95% without much of any pain. So working back on getting my strength on especially my shoulder, because I wasn't able to do a lot of pressing because of my shoulder issues. And then last week, for the first time in I think like 2 years, I actually did a workout with power cleans which was crazy and felt great because I love power cleans. I wasn't really good at them, but with my wrist injury, I just have not been able to do them. So I actually did like a longer EMOM and tested it out, and it was good. I stayed fairly light for what I'm kind of used to do, but it was still really good. And yeah, I'm really glad, really happy about that.
Oh, that's good, man. Finally, not hurt.
I mean,
Or
yeah, I
getting like don't get ahead of yourself.
really
I'm
really
still
close.
plenty hurt.
Yeah. There's still things I gotta watch out for, or do some extra PT mobility stuff like that. But I'm pretty much without limitation. I just got to keep up with a lot of things. There's always upkeep, especially nowadays. But it's still pretty encouraging that I can pretty much do most any workout that I see come up, and not have to think of, okay, I gotta back this down. I gotta change this out. Maybe I need to do this today instead. So that's definitely really nice.
That's awesome, man. Um, for me, I have a big update, an unfortunate update. The High Rocks was this past Saturday, and I did not run it.
I've been wondering
We
that
didn't.
for like a
Yeah,
couple
we
weeks.
didn't go. A long story short, and the reason it's unfortunate is because when you train a bunch for one specific thing, we had like some specific programming. To catch anyone up who didn't know, it was me and one of the Garage Gym athletes. His name is Mark Bishop. We ran the Ultra together earlier this year, which feels like 2 or 3 years ago at this point, in all honesty. Um, anyway, we were doing pro doubles, and they they shot us an email on Wednesday. High Rocks did, with like the start times for that Saturday, and it was like it was close to like 8 p.m. was our start time, and
Oh.
we were like, wow, that's pretty late for a start time. Like we thought this was like a morning event, you know. But then
Yeah.
like as you look through like their how they run the day, they just have so many people they sign up for this event, and then it's like they prioritize like single competitors or whatever you call it, just like one person running the event, pro, and then
hmm
like all the way down. And so they put pro doubles like as the last thing. And then it just came down to the fact where, in all honesty, schedule wise, it just didn't work. Like Mark was going to fly it. He was already on a really tight time schedule. He was going to fly in Friday night,
hmm
going to race Saturday morning, and then he had to leave Saturday night. Like he just with his schedule, being a pilot and then going into Thanksgiving week with family stuff. And so we looked at like all these different ways to try to make it work. And other than like him trying to fly in Saturday morning, compete Saturday night, and then catch a flight out that night, like it just wasn't going to work. So
Yeah.
we ultimately couldn't pull it off. Super unfortunate, for both me and Mark, we put in a lot of training to get ready for that high rocks, and then we weren't able to compete. So anyway, that's a huge bummer, but I still really want to do high rocks. So I think I'm just going to kind of keep training, which, to be honest, training for high rocks isn't much
Isn't
different
much
than
of a
how
stretch.
yeah, like if you're not like trying to be super competitive, it's not super far off from what I would do on a weekly, monthly basis anyway. So I think I'm just going to keep training how I am, though I was on like more specific like high rocks programming that I had created for myself. I will probably just kind of slip back into like a hard to kill track now. Something like that for the meantime, and then see if I want to change anything up. I haven't even looked at other high rocks events yet, but probably get one on the calendar for sometime next year, even if I have to do it, like not necessarily waiting for it to be in Dallas again. But I know they do a lot of international ones. I'm not trying to like go to Hong Kong to like race one of these things, but
You don't want to come to Spain because they have them in Madrid.
when is the Madrid one? Do you know?
I know it was like 2 weeks before yours, but I know there's more that I get emails from them because I signed up for their wait list for the Madrid one because it was all booked up. I wouldn't have been able to do it anyway. But yeah, they have Madrid, Barcelona, Malaga. They're all over Portugal. So there's definitely ones that pop up and they open up new ones. So I've gotten emails about them, but I haven't really looked into them.
Yeah.
Even Germany.
See, what is that? Like a
London
7 to 12 hours of travel for a 1 hour event? It's like,
yeah, maybe don't come the night before.
Yeah, like how early? Like, well, if I was going to Europe, we would just have to bring the family and be there for like a few weeks.
Yeah,
there's no way I'd fly in for one event. But yeah, that's update there.
Otherwise, for sure.
Well, I mean, I get it. Like, and I don't mind doing a race at 8 p.m. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We could have done it, but
it's.
They like, also let us
so
know.
You sign up
like,
for something.
Yeah, like,
exactly.
They let us know pretty.
If I'm going to race at 8 p.m., it was like I want to choose my time slot. When I sign up, so that like, okay, I know I need to, because like 8 p.m. I feel like I need to almost change training for that, because I work out at like 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. I'm asleep or in bed at least.
Yeah, it's funny. Like I go to bed at like 9 o'clock pretty much every night. I'd say between 9 and 10. And we were playing. There's this place here in Dallas. I mean, I think they're like a franchise, so they're all over the place. It's called Chicken and Pickle, and so you play pickleball. It's like these big facilities. They have pickleball indoor and outdoor, and then they serve fried chicken. Basically. And we went there, and you can spend a lot of time there. Like we got there at like 6, and we ended up leaving at like 11:30 or something like that. But when 10 o'clock hit, like we were still playing pickleball, and I was like, I quickly became useless. I was like in my 8th game of pickleball, and then just all of a sudden, like my brain switched off. It's like, we don't care anymore. We're done with pickleball. We're done being competitive. So that probably wouldn't have happened at an 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. race, but like, it was funny how quickly the lights turned off for me. I was like, okay, I'm good. Like I'm ready to go home. Like, just, you get in your routines and your habits. It's hard to break after a certain point.
Yeah, we've pretty much relegated ourselves to almost nothing in Spain because it all happens way too late for us.
yeah. I can't keep up with this crowd, this country.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Well, let's get into topic for the day. Thanks for updates, and we'll continue these with Joe and I periodically. But again, like I said, we're looking for feedback on from athletes who are really been listening to the podcast for the last time. What you want to hear more of, just let us know. However you want to contact us works for us. Always looking for that feedback. But today we're talking about Christmas gifts, right? Like our top 3 gift ideas for the holidays for the garage gym athlete. So you want to kick things off, Joe? Like, what's your number 1 or number 3 if we're going in reverse order?
I don't really have any sort of rank. So yeah, I don't have anything ranked. My idea was, I was thinking between $50 and $100 for a recommendation. But if you want to go, over that, there's plenty of lists out there. Like, Jerred, if you wanted to get me something for Christmas, I wear a size regular freak athlete GHD that you can just send on over.
Freak athlete.
Yeah. Uh, but I was going for like the 50 to 100 because that seems like the gift giving ranges depend on like friend, family. You see a lot of lists for 50 and below, but and you can get plenty of other things like resistance bands. I'm not going to mention the normal resistance band, but I also have a story for the first one that I wanted to say, and that are the knee bands. And specifically, there's ones that they sell. Don't get the rubber ones. There's ones that are like 2 or 3 inches wide, and
Hmm.
they're like a cloth material because it will not rip out your leg hairs. And that's really really important,
Gosh, yeah.
or just like burn your skin. So we got these, and they're fantastic. Liz uses them all the time. I've used them for some here and there. I was actually using them when I was injured, and I couldn't lift like super heavy or couldn't to put a barbell on or anything because I was still doing certain movements, whether it was squats, goblet squats, uh, hip bridges, stuff like that. You put the knee band on, and it just really, it's almost like adding more weight because you're using your glutes a lot more. Well, last week I was squatting, and a couple weeks ago I was starting to have like some tightness in my hip flexor or groin for some reason when I was running, and then when I was squatting, my groin or my hip flexor got really really tight, and it was like painful popping out of the bottom of the squat unless I went super slow. But I didn't want that, so I was like, okay, so what's something's going on? So I was like, okay, maybe my glutes aren't firing. So I put the knee band on. I did some monster walks side to side, and then I kept the knee bands on for the duration of my squat workout and the rest of the lower body workout, and I didn't feel anything in my uh, hip flexor or groin for the rest of the workout. So it was just a glute issue that I needed to make sure that it was firing. And it was just like a medium sized band, nothing like to give like a really deep burn, but it was just there as like a, hey, you need to fire a little bit more. You're not. So, it was really awesome to feel that. And like, okay, it's a simple fix. So those knee bands, they're pretty inexpensive. You can find them on Amazon, all kinds of different brands, but they're great to scale up your lower body workouts or to make sure you're activating your glutes because that's a huge, huge thing when it comes to lower body. Or in my case, it really made sure that I didn't hurt myself.
And where do you get these bands? Amazon? Is it Amazon
Amazon,
purchase or
100%.
yeah? Like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I could probably just maybe.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
bands that don't rip out your hair, that's it's a huge plus.
Yeah. You look at the resistance knee bands, all you have to do is do that. There's a brand called Tribe. I think that's the one that we have. They have several different ones. They're nice and thick. So don't do the rubber ones. Do the actual like cloth or whatever um, material it is. And they're, you know, $15 right now, $30, 15 to $30.
Cool. Well, I'll jump in. Mine's not going to follow the budget recommendation at all. Because this is part me wanting to talk about this contraption I have and then part recommending it. So, yes, the freak athlete thing is kind of what I'm suggesting because I just got it was super delayed. So when I bought the freak athlete a couple months ago, I bought the leg developer with it. And so you're able to do leg curls and leg extensions. And
Mm-hmm.
but it was delayed. The freak athlete thing came and that was like a new thing for them. And they're like, we'll send it in October. And then it didn't come in October. And they're like, we'll send it in November. So I just got it a couple of days ago. The leg developer. So I've had the freak athlete thing for a while, for a couple months. And so I would say I recommend this. I fully recommend it in all honesty.
Hmm.
I think it's just really cool to be able to do all the things that a freak athlete machine does. Like where I think that this machine would suck is in a gym, like in an actual gym where many people are using it, a commercial space. People who don't care about the equipment, it gets too many uses throughout the day. I think in that capacity, this freak athlete thing would probably fall apart, not be a great addition to any kind of like serious gym. But for the garage gym athlete, like just singular or maybe a couple of people, I think it's a phenomenal machine just because of how much you can do. I didn't get there upgraded like GHD and all these other things, and I don't know if it really matters because, again, I've already talked about how this thing isn't a legitimate reverse hyper, and I'd never use it for that. But it is a great for GHD sit-ups, Nordic curls, and now the fact that I can do hamstring curls and I can do leg extensions. And I was wondering about how the functionality was going to be on that, like if it was going to kind of suck or like not be that great. But they kind of nailed it. Like it's really good for being able to do leg extensions. I've done Two workouts now where I actually added leg extensions and hamstring curls into the workout just to see how the machine would work. Um, and it works great. So I know that that would be a really expensive purchase for somebody, maybe like for a friend. But if you are like a spouse listening to this, maybe getting it for your wife or your husband or whatever, that might be more in the realm of something that would be, acceptable. And I think it would be a phenomenal addition to anybody who has a garage gym. So the freak athlete with the leg developer, because we've talked about this before. Like I really wanted to get a leg extension machine, and I was looking at the one from Titan because it was like, I don't remember how much it was, somewhere like $300 to $600. I was thinking about getting it because I wanted to be able to do leg extensions. But that machine, that was all you could do with it, was leg extensions. Like that was it. I was going to have this Titan machine. I was going to be able to do leg extensions. And now with the freak athlete, they add that. I'm like, I can do leg extensions, leg curls for the hamstrings, and then all the other things that the freak athlete machine does. And I haven't even looked into like how versatile they're trying to make it. Like it's really like a Swiss Army knife. They have some upper body kit now to where I don't know if you can do like bicep curls and stuff with it or whatever, because it basically has that lever arm that you can do the leg extension. So like if you can find out a way to get your upper body involved with that, which I think they did, now you can do all these different things. So it is just such a great piece of equipment. And I'm not affiliated with the company at all. I get nothing if you go run and buy one of these. We're not a part of their affiliate program. I don't have a code you can go use. None of that. I just legitimately think it's a great piece of equipment that they've built. Like I said, really, it's like a Swiss Army knife for the garage gym athlete. So really solid.
If you need my address, just let me know.
Mm-hmm. I was on their website the other day when I was building the leg extension, and they talked about international shipping. So I think you could get one.
I feel like they have a UK side or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. So mine is also, well, if we're throwing a budget out, then I will take a Concept 2 strength system for $1,500, Alex.
Well, so I don't know if we want to talk about that more, but I kind of decided against that machine because I watched it more. And the second I saw it in use, I was like, oh, there's zero eccentric motion.
Yeah.
So that was I should have known that. Like I should have known, like just thinking through it, I should have been like, oh, there's not going to be any eccentric motion on this, which is good from like an injury standpoint. No eccentric motion. If you only have concentric motion in anything, the chance of you getting injured are very low. But I'm just so torn. I don't think I've seen enough research on like what happens when you train only concentric. But I know eccentric is pretty important. So that'd be like the lowering, like the stretching, right? Like that's not happening. So I feel like when you're missing, there are three types of muscle contractions. There's eccentric, concentric, and isometric. You're missing two out of the three with that. I don't know if it's a good long-term strength building thing. I'd rather get machines like like the leg extension or something from Freak Athlete or something else. So ultimately, I don't think I'm going to pull the trigger on that one because of the lack of eccentric.
Yeah, when I saw it, I figured the best thing to do with it would be like power endurance, because you can crank it up high, you can push really hard, you can push as hard as you can. There's no landing, there's no anything like that, and then you go back and you just push as hard as you can, and like 30 seconds of that, you'd be toast, and like you get real powerful. But that's about the extent of it.
Yeah, because I think when we first talked about it, the main reason I was interested was like for my family, not necessarily like for me, and that's where I'm bigger. Like, yeah, would this be great for my kids? Like as they're building their strength and power, like you're saying, I'm like, yeah, I think it would be. But then I guess where I land is like I need to do more research, because if I were to train my kids and I took away eccentric motion, is that only good for them because the chance of injuries have dropped significantly, or is that bad because we're missing a large portion of just how the human body moves? That's what I got to go figure out.
Yeah. Well, my second one will have the eccentric motion. This is what I got for us. I got us this last year. You can get a bunch of different sets of it. It does attach to your squat rack or something else, and that is a cable attachment with all different kinds of hooks and stuff that you can do. So basically, it hooks to the top, like your pull-up bar. You set plates on top of this little thing. You hook the cable to it, and then you can attach. I mostly use it for tricep pushdowns, which I love it for. You can do cables on it. You can do, if you sit on the ground, or sit on something. Probably, usually you have to sit on the ground depending on how high your thing goes. Lat pull downs are fantastic for it. So you can transform your cage into somewhat of a cable machine to do a bunch of different cable exercises. You have to get a second um, pivot point in order to do like lower things. I only have the top one to like pulling down or pulling at you, but to pull up, you have to get a second one, which some of you can get. And you can get like they're on Amazon. You're searching like cable rack attachment or whatever, and it comes with all different kinds of handles. Some of them come with multiple pivot points, and they range anywhere from $40 to $90. They're a great investment. I use it. I use mine at least once a month, maybe even a couple times a month for mostly again the tricep push downs, which I think are still really good, and then lat pull downs and stuff like that. So a cable rack attachment
I think that's awesome. Yeah,
doesn't take up much.
we're leaning towards isolation in our old age.
Right? Like
Okay,
I don't know. I don't know what's what's coming out.
So here's mine. Well, let me start with a question. Do you know how many steps you get per day on average?
Sometimes probably to 7 to 8 thousand during the week. I get a little notification. Garmin sets off at like 7,700, but that's sometimes I hit it, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, I'd say I'm pretty good about hitting around 10,000. If I run that day, it's going to be more. But just with the kids and their schedules, I'm pretty good to hit 10,000. But there are some work days where like I don't do a lot, and I could get like 4,000 or 5,000, and it's like that's not very good. So going into 2025, I've just been thinking about like what kind of habits do I want to strive for or improve, and I want to try and hit consistently like 13 to 15,000 steps per day. And normally when I hit 15,000 steps in a day, that's a pretty like I did a lot that day, like because steps aren't always just like you walking, right? It's like cleaning the house or like you did an extra activity or whatever. So between my dog, which I'm now walking, and getting more steps in, I think I can hit 15,000 steps per day. That's the average I'm going for. Honestly, 13 to 15,000 for 2025. So I was like thinking of other ways I can do this. Well, I'm in a lot of meetings throughout the week, and so like some days it's like just hours of meetings back to back. So I'm going to purchase for myself, and I think this is a great gift idea for anyone else, a walking pad for my desk. And I've been looking at them on Amazon, and the range is insanity. It's like you can buy these for $70 up to $600. I don't know. I don't know which one's good, but you could start with a $70 one, right? You could start with that. I have a coworker who's going to try the $70 one. I typically don't like to go bottom of the barrel when I'm trying out a new piece of equipment. So I'm going to probably go one of the mid-range ones. I'm definitely not spending $600 on a desk treadmill. So anyway, these walking pads, they're not legitimate treadmills in my opinion. It's not like made for like running miles and miles, but some of them only go up to like 3.5 or 4 miles per hour, which is a decent clip walking speed if you're like trying to also interact with something on your computer. So anyway, my plan with that is just to start walking during meetings. I already hate meetings anyway. And so most of the time I just have to talk to people during meetings and not do a lot of work. When I'm working, I like to sit or stand and be pretty focused. I don't think I could also walk while I'm working, but to try and add steps in extra throughout the day, that's something I'm going to be doing. So a walking pad is ultimately my gift recommendation. And like I said, the price range is pretty crazy. But for as low as $70, you can grab one of these and get more steps in throughout your day. And I already talked about walking. I did a podcast a couple months ago on that, like where walking fits in for the athlete. It's phenomenal for you. Like getting more steps in is going to, help you live a longer, healthier life. So any way we can do that, the better. And I tried just like scheduling walks into my day, but in all honesty, that's probably the most skipped activity I'd ever put on my calendar. It was like, okay, time to go for a 15-minute walk. And I'm like, I think I might just keep working. Like that's, yeah. I would just kind of always make that decision. But I do think, like I said, I hate sitting in meetings anyway. And so I'll just start walking during all of them.
Well, we're going to have to record a podcast while you're walking.
Yeah, I can do that. I can walk in podcasts. I'll probably be better.
Maybe. Yeah, get the brain juices flowing. I probably won't have one of those anytime soon, at least not until we move again. But I can use my third recommendation while we do that if we really want to. And this one is sort of it's PT um, tool and something that I've been using to help with my Achilles and my heel and stuff like that. That is a Mobo board, and this is a circular piece of like bamboo wood, and they have different pegs, different positions, and you essentially balance on it. But what it's meant for is to really activate your arches in your feet. Because a lot of times we have a hard time activating our arches in our feet, and that was something that I'm working on a lot. So there's a hole for all your four toes to go through this hole, and only your big toe is on the board. So that as you're balancing on one foot, you're pressing down on your big toe the entire time, so that your arch is constantly activating. But it's also depending on what pegs you do, you're also balancing on your ankle. So it's strengthening your foot. It's working your stability on your ankle. And I've been using this. I got it almost a year ago, and it's really helped out. I'm making Liz start to use it because I want her to start to use her arches a bit more. And I've started doing like really light RDLs on it because you're balancing on one foot while you're activating, doing all these things, slow and controlled, as like a really good warm up. They are $90. They aren't on Amazon. There's like a cheap version on Amazon. I probably would just go for the actual through Mobo and do it through them because I think the PT who created it was like a running specialist PT. But I think it's really really good. So gift for somebody who's a runner or just somebody who's might need some extra ankle stability if they have feet problems. I think doing more arch support would be really helpful.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's kind of what my third recommendation is in line with, not arch support, but hitting these auxiliary things that we know are
Mm-hmm.
important. So I actually have two recommendations or two more gift ideas to kind of like round this out. But my actual third one, it costs $60 and it's called the O2 trainer. So it's like a lung trainer. It's supposed to strengthen the diaphragm. This is something I started focusing on right at the beginning of my high rocks training. I actually hired a coach for this. I'm still working with him and will be for the next couple months because this is insanely is more difficult than I thought. But I'm working a lot on breath work right now, like breathing performance. Because I mean, I could do a whole podcast on this and I probably will because I'm still like very much in the learning phases. But like I thought I knew how to breathe, but like I'm talking about for performance, not just like sitting around like meditation type breathing. But man, my breathing was all screwed up. And I feel like I've always known that. I feel like my breathing's been like a limiter to some capacity. But part of working through this is like actually realizing how to utilize your diaphragm. And then once you're like good at accessing your diaphragm and how to pull in more air, also how to exhale and then strengthening the diaphragm. Anyway, the O2 trainer is something I'm using in conjunction with this program, and it's been really great to work on. Like I said, I'll probably do a podcast on this at some point, especially after I'm done kind of going through the coaching phase and seeing what progress it might help. Because the guy I'm working with, he works with a lot of ultra marathon runners, and just the performance increases that a lot of these people have seen. They're already phenomenal athletes, right? Like they're good athletes, and then he helps them become even better by just fixing their breathing, because you can get really fit without ever having to really focus on it. Like you could just put in the work and you'll get really fit and you're fine. But the things that he like really helps you do, like increase your performance even more, like increases in VO2 max. And anyway, the O2 trainer is part of that training. It's $60. I think if you just get that and started watching the videos on how to utilize it and you used it, it takes like 3 minutes per day. Like it's a super easy thing to use. So I'll say that because it's something I'm using and it's fairly cheap. And I think that it can make a huge impact on your training. The last thing I kind of want to round out with is, in all honesty, what I've actually gifted the most to friends and family members, and that's a kettlebell. So that's where I'll
I was wondering when that was going to pop up.
Yeah, I didn't want it to be one of my top three because I just felt like it was going to be like, if I was like, yeah, buy somebody a kettlebell, a barbell, and some plates, like, yeah, that I wanted to kind of be a little bit more creative in our podcast episode today. But legitimately, if you're trying to get somebody to like get into fitness, getting them a lighter kettlebell Those typically aren't that expensive. You can buy them from almost anywhere now. Like you could even go to like Target or Dick's Sporting Goods and like all these places and buy decent sized kettlebells that aren't that expensive, so you don't have to worry about shipping. You could buy those as a gift for people. I did that for my brother. I've done it for my in-laws, and they end up actually using it too, like for like deadlifts and stuff, or when they're at home. Like people get in more fitness, you realize, once you buy them things like this. And so, yeah, that's what I've actually gifted the most over the years as a kettlebell to different people in my family. So yeah, that's where I'll end it.
So going back to the breath, I was actually wondering if you're going to bring this up. Do you still use your nose bridge breathers?
I do. I use it. I use it strategically now. I'm not like wearing it all the time. I'd say I use it. I was using it when I would sleep and then certain runs, but now I'm not really using it when I sleep anymore either. I don't feel like I need it. But I'm using it on these runs. So I'll get into it real briefly, but like, especially now that High Rocks is over, because there's a certain level of like just performance that you need, right? Like if I need to go run zone 4 today or whatever, I can't sit around and like focus on breathing in and out of my nose or like making sure things are coming in and out of my diaphragm and all that, right? It's too, like, I just got to put in the work. But now that I'm not really training for anything, most of my runs are going to just these breathing practices that I'm being coached on. And so I will use the nasal strip during these runs because my coach thought it was a good idea to like, yeah, let's open up the nostrils. He also taught me some things to like, well, if you don't have the nasal strip or you don't want to use it, there are like other strategies to like make sure your nose is open and stuff. So I am using that, but that's, as you can tell, between the nasal strips, this breathing stuff, hiring a coach, like I really wanted to focus on this the end of the year, and a little bit into next year is probably when I'll wrap things up. But it's just like kind of the next phase I wanted to like truly try and master and learn a lot more about. So yeah, I'm going on these runs now that are like, I'm not paying attention to cadence. I'm not paying attention to heart rate zone or anything. All I'm paying attention to the entire run is my breath. So the runs aren't long. It'd be like 1 to 3 miles, but I do them more frequently. And I'm just focusing. It's not like I can't like I said, I'll have to do a full podcast on it because like I'm sure people are like interested now, but it's like, it's not just like, oh, make sure you're breathing in and out of your nose. It's like that. It's so much more than that. Like there's so much like how to properly inhale through your nose, access the diaphragm, how that expands in all directions, goes into your chest. And then also the exhale. The exhale is very important. There are multiple different strategies for the exhale. So it is fairly complicated. And it's because I've tried like, oh, I'm just going to breathe in and out of my nose on a zone 2 run. Never felt like that helped me at all in any real way. And so I knew there was something I was missing. And now it's obvious that I was.
That's definitely something I would struggle with, but probably should get better at, because I think I have a pretty quick fight or flight response when it comes to breathing and like slowing down breathing or like controlling and holding breathing. I'm like, oh my God, I can't breathe.
Yeah. It's like CO2 tolerance is another big thing with, and you can read about that in that book, Art of Breath, but your body doesn't actually need to breathe, but it like makes you freak out when too much CO2 builds up in your blood. It's like, it gives you that like response that you, hey, take that breath, even though you could probably make it another 15, 20, 30 seconds of holding your breath. It's like trying to make you freak out. So you take that breath. And so there's like a certain level of like being okay with that feeling. It's like just that tolerance. Because if you think about it, people are holding their breath, these like, what is those divers, the deep sea divers or whatever, you know, the free divers. Yeah. They're holding their breath for like 6 minutes and stuff. It's like, you don't feel like they feel uncomfortable at some point. Like they probably feel uncomfortable and they're just training this, like not only their lung capacity, but like the ability to just sit with that discomfort and know that they're ultimately okay.
Yeah. I'll have one bonus one as well, and then I'll be finished. And that is for anybody who has, if you know somebody that has a Garmin or a stupid Square Watch, Apple Watch, just kidding, or Polar or something, and if they haven't gotten themselves a heart rate monitor, a chest strap, to do that, because you can get them for anywhere from $50 to $100. So still under the $100 mark, but it's definitely really, really nice to have, especially on runs. You usually get more data on that, more accurate heart rate on certain activities. It's not necessary, but if if you really need a gift idea and somebody has a fitness watch and does work out pretty regularly, it's pretty nice to have.
Awesome. Yeah, great addition. All right, we'll wrap it up there. Hopefully we gave you some great gift ideas for your loved ones, friends, families, colleagues. And that'll be it for this one. If you want to become a part of our training, you want to be a Garage Gym athlete, go to garagegymathlete.com, sign up for a free trial. And we'd love to have you there. For all of our athletes sticking around, being a part of the community, doing the training, we really do appreciate you. But that's it for this one. Remember, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you.